this week's Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with...
Sean.
Chris.
And Dan.
He's
Dan!
back!
Yay!
Yay! He is back in...
Returned from a secret mission.
Yep, he...
Look at the
for 1 or
state
2
of the
weeks
world.
only.
Why aren't you busy, Dan? Look at the state that you've left this planet in currently.
Who do you think did that?
Okay. I know you can't say too much right now, but yeah. So we'll probably best talk about Formula One.
If we must. Well, we did have an interesting Miami weekend, shall we say. But as this show's coming out on Monday night, shall we get what's current in the news now before it's completely and utterly ruined by whatever's going to happen on Tuesday? Because we're not going to be around on Tuesday anywhere near a set of microphones, and there can't be any jump cuts. So
No jump cuts.
What the hell is going on with Alpine this weekend?
Flavio Briatore is going on with Alpine. Let's be honest.
Yes, that would do it. So end of last week, they, and I use these words sarcastically, officially denied that Doohan was going to be replaced by Colapinto before Emilia Romagna.
I watched the press conference. Oliver Oakes definitely said, as of today, he's still our driver. But that was Friday or Thursday, and that day has now gone.
It's not Friday today anymore.
So by Monday afternoon, after yet another lap one exit, third of the season.
Not his fault, definitely this one.
Definitely not 100% his fault, but after yet another lap one exit, it now looks as though Colapinto is in and Doohan is out. Although if Lawson carries on the way he's going, there'll be a spare seat going at Racing Bulls for anyone with a super licence. Oh God, they're going to bring Ricciardo or De Vries back, aren't
Yeah, I
they?
think Doohan's already burnt that bridge, hasn't he? Because he started in the Red Bull Junior programme and then left.
I think didn't Helmut Marko call him like a grade C driver or something?
Helmut Marko has not been kind about him at some point this year, yeah.
Helmut Marko's not been kind about anyone this year, or any year. Which I just have to, just for the benefit of everyone on Discord, and I can't remember who it was that said it makes them laugh every time, I'm just going to use the words COVID camp.
Yes, yeah. Doohan may have had to have been part of that. Who knows?
I probably would have been Red Bull at the time, wouldn't he? So, yes. So, once again, Alpine are in a massive mess. So is it time that Renault left F1 again?
I mean, they sort of are, aren't they? A little bit. As in, they're getting Mercedes engines from next year, and it's just the Alpine team building the car, which I do find a bit strange. It was pointed out to me quite recently, though, that Lotus, when Enstone team were called Lotus back in the past the Maldonado days, actually ran with Mercedes engines for a short time.
But Lotus weren't an engine manufacturer.
No,
Very true.
No, and Renault are only making engines for themselves at the moment. There's no customer team in Formula One for them at the moment. I understand why they're looking at replacing Jack Doohan after 6 races. When you look at the other rookies, you look at Antonelli, you look at Hadjar, you look at Oliver Behrman. The only other one, Liam Lawson is a outlier, and Bortoletto, I would say, hasn't done better than Doohan at the moment.
I mean, out of Lawson's 3 rookie seasons, this one's his worst.
Yeah, and
I mean,
go on, Dan.
I can understand wanting to replace Doohan after 6 races, but the talk about it started before his first race of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's got to have been a bit of a knock to his confidence.
Yeah, it must have hurt.
Oh yeah, because I mean, you know, they made the deal with Ocon at the end of last season to allow Ocon to leave early. They put Doohan in the car, give him some full all 3 days of a Grand Prix weekend experience, and this is what it's going to be like for you next year, and seemed to handle it well, apart from the fact that the car was an absolute hoover.
I mean, it's not great this year, is it, the Alpine? It's all right. But, I mean, Doohan's made... he's made a few silly mistakes, and I think if Colapinto wasn't in the frame, the talk might be that he'd be looking at being replaced at some point anyway. But the fact is that what Dan says is right. This conversation started before the first race of the season, and that's probably had a knock-on effect onto his results that he has had in these first 6 races. And it's got to play on your mind, hasn't it? You know, if you know the conversations are being had and people are always asking you about it. So it seems unfair, but at the same time, justified to have the conversation, I think, at the moment.
I suppose as well, not dissimilar to what we saw with Lawson at Red Bull, where, again, seemingly before he'd ever really got going, there was already that conversation about whether Tsunoda should have the seat instead. And, yeah, didn't last very long.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, still on the fence about that one. I mean, demoting Liam Lawson back to Racing Bulls was always only going to do one thing, and that was going to make him a Racing Bulls driver. Regardless of whether or not Tsunoda is a success at Red Bull, Lawson was only going to be able to do what an RB can do. He's not qualifying last like he was in the Red Bull, so he's actually doing better. But at the same time, you know, his younger teammate, his rookie teammate, his other rookie teammate in his first rookie season is doing a really good job. So again, that makes Lawson look a little bit, you know, overshadowed again, shall we say?
The thing is now, I was reading a conversation between a few fans earlier, saying, you know, Max has ruined the sport just by coming in and being so good straight off the bat. I don't think it's Max that's ruined the sport. I think it's basically the teams all wanting to find the next Max. That is.
He wasn't good straight off the bat.
No, he was very crashy.
Yeah, the first 2 seasons he wasn't fantastic. It was.
He was impressive straight off the bat.
He was quick.
He was fast. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with what Jean just said then. He was quick, he was fast, really fast, but he made a lot of mistakes, and he had to iron those out. But yeah, I don't think that rookies, even now, getting as much time as they were three or 4 years ago even. So, you know, I mean, when you got a rookie like Behrman who plugged into the Ferrari last year and was expected to do a job and did it, that's now the level. The rookies are expected to come in and do a job straight away. Even Helmut Marko, as unfair as it was, giving Isaac Hadjar some crap for being upset for crashing just before his first race. Like that, he's expected to perform already as soon as he hits the ground.
That was just jealousy, though. He was crying out of both eyes. I can say.
Oh dear, Paul.
I'm not going to suffer for that one. I can say what the hell I want. But yeah, I think every team at the moment is looking for the next superhero, and you can't. You know, it's ruining careers. You look at the good drivers and how long it's taken them to actually come through. You know, even the ones the ones that have been parachuted into the big teams straight away.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at George Russell did what, 2 years at Williams, 3 years at Williams?
I think it was three, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably one season too long. Mm-hmm. And I know towards the back end of last season, we were having conversations. Kieran and I were very much of the opinion that Antonelli needed a second season in F2. We were wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Mercedes have definitely struck gold with him, but you know, every other driver that comes through, you know, Ocon was going to be, he was the next big thing according to Mercedes. And
look at Piastri; he had to have a year out between F2 and F1.
Yeah,
and yet clearly was ready.
Yeah, and then you got drivers like Felipe Drugovich, who clearly talented, but can't get a seat because Lance Stroll.
I've never wanted oil money to buy out any part of a sport more than I want them to buy out Aston Martin just to get Stroll off the bloody grid. just to get a decent driver in. All right, he's the one with all the points this year, but God knows how.
Yeah, Aston Martin, that car is not good this year. They're fully fixed and firm on next year, aren't they? This is a throwaway year for them.
Yeah, they've admitted as much. Adrian Newey is still not touching this year's car.
And they're probably not going to change their lineup before 27 or 28, I would think. Alonso's at least going to give it 1 year in with the new regulations and working with Adrian Newey, at least, I would think. And then you've got... going back to the Alpine situation, you've got Franco Colapinto potentially plugging in Alpine. Do you really think he's going to be the kind of driver who's going to solve Alpine's problems? Because, I mean, Gasly wasn't brilliant this weekend. So if this carries on...
problems aren't driver problems.
No, I agreed. Yeah, I agree with you, Dan, completely. The car's not very good. The team's in a little bit of a... Transition's probably not the fair word to say, but Ollie Oakes has been there for nearly a year now. Flavio Briatore's been parachuted in as like a emeritus sort of chairman overseeing everything because Flavio Briatore. And they're making changes next year. As I say, no Renault engine for next year. It's going to be a Mercedes engine. So it really looks like they're not going to be anywhere near the head of the midfield for this year. We're a quarter of the way through the season already. You can replace your driver, that's fine. But it's not going to, like Dan said then, that's not where the problems lie. It's not going to solve the problems, I don't think, personally. And also, Colapinto had a mixed season last year in those few races. He was great at times, a bit like what we said about Max Verstappen. He was fast, but he crashed a lot.
Big crashes as well, like not just little, I've clipped a barrier. Like he wrote some stuff off.
Oh, the Inside Williams video when they brought back the skips containing his car from Brazil.
Skips plural.
Yeah, yeah. They just emptied
It was
them out.
both cars, wasn't it? It was Albon's as well, because Albon crashed.
Yeah, but they just emptied all these bits of car and carbon fibre out all over the floor. And it's like, is any of this worth salvaging? Go big or go home, I guess.
It looks like Jack Doohan might be going home.
So we're going to see more Carlos Slim-owned sponsorship on the Alpine then.
He was there at the weekend. He was in Miami.
Was he there, was he?
He was. He was
Well-
hanging out with Chase Carey and your man from Louis Vuitton.
Okay.
Of course, Checo was there as well, and all the rumours were flying around that they were about to announce one, if not both, drivers.
Was everyone unattached, not kind of hanging around because Cadillac were having a big thing, though? So I think everyone was like shop windowing themselves.
Yeah,
Did you see? Go on, Paul. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think Jackie Stewart's in with a shout of that Cadillac seat.
Yeah. Has anyone seen the launch that they did? The
No.
video launch.
No.
So it gave away absolutely nothing. Like it looks like the livery's going to be black and white. That's it. But Graham Loudon was quite good on Sky when he was on. He said it was his birthday last week, and he'd never had so many happy birthday messages from drivers and former drivers.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with Cadillac and who is going to end up driving for them, and how it's going to work, and are they going to want drivers with more Ferrari experience for the first few years until they've got their own engine sorted out.
Who's available with Ferrari experience?
Well, Perez's ex-Ferrari Young Driver program.
Yeah, but you're going back away there, aren't you? That's
Yeah.
like, what,
Yeah, you are.
2013?
Yeah.
Zhou Guan Yu.
Who is
Zhou
a Ferrari
Guan Yu's a
test
shout,
driver
yeah.
and has been linked with it. I mean, if they're just wanting to participate for a couple of years, Giovinazzi's always an option.
Hey, Giovinazzi's a
I was
good
going to say,
driver.
24 Hours of Le Mans winner,
Yeah.
Giovinazzi.
I mean, don't forget, Bottas spent 2 years at the back of the grid with a Ferrari engine behind him.
Yeah, I don't know if he did say that Sauber was a mistake, didn't he? So I don't know that you want to go necessarily and start off, at a team that's building again. Possibly, I don't know. It'd be
Romain
nice to see Bottas
Grosjean,
back on.
obviously, Ferrari with the Haas.
Well, yes. Who was also
Danny Rick,
Danny Rick.
Toro Rosso was a Ferrari engine, but again, we're
Yeah.
going back quite far then.
That's very true. K-Mag. I know I was trying to start a K-Mag to Red Bull thing a while back, but still available.
I liked that Kevin Magnussen to Red Bull
It
theory.
made a lot of logical sense, therefore it will never happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Logic and Red Bull, not, they don't go well together. This kind of brings us on to the Miami Grand Prix. One of the wettest tracks I think I've seen across the course of 2 days of racing. The F1 sprint was slippery, shall we say. Have they forgotten to put drainage in that circuit?
Did they say it rained something like 7 days in however many months or something of this? Like, it does not rain very often in that area at this time of year or something wild like that.
Yeah, there was 2 days consecutively
Yeah.
of absolutely horrendous rain for, admittedly, only for sort of about an hour at a time, but it looked like it was about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. The F1 Academy race 2 ended up getting called off after 5 formation laps, 6.
It felt like they were out there for a long time.
A lot of standing water, though.
But they kept having to slow down because everybody kept going off because there was that much spray, even doing 50 miles an hour. They couldn't actually see.
Yeah,
where the
exactly. Like
corners
they did not need to leave them out there as long as they did. Like they were all bitching when they came back in about how cold and wet they were. Like they definitely could have brought them in a lot sooner.
Yeah, what was it? It's like taking a cold plunge.
Yeah.
And I am absolutely soaked. To which everybody that was related to Ferrari said, must be the water.
Yeah, that's got to that's a good one.
Words of wisdom. Water is still wet. But yeah, the sprint was in tricky conditions. Somebody playing music in the background.
Apologies, I was scrolling on Twitter and a video came up and my phone was not as mute as I thought it was.
Yeah, never seen tyre stops in a sprint race before.
I have, but only for like punctures, I think.
Well,
Yeah.
not actual full.
Not the whole field stopping.
Yes.
Yeah, and Ferrari called something right.
Well, you say Ferrari. The transcript shows it was Lewis Hamilton that called it, and Ferrari were like, "Oh, we're not sure about this." He's like, "No, yeah, we'll stop now." And they were like, "Okay, yeah, we'll box for mediums." He's like, "No, softs." Like, are you sure? Like, yes, absolutely. We'll go soft tires, and that did work out really well for Lewis Hamilton. He was one of the early ones to stop, wasn't he?
I think he might have been first, actually.
Sonoda
Yeah.
was first.
Sonoda was first, of course he was, yes.
And then you've got the safety car period after Lawson decided that Alonso didn't need to be racing anymore. Well, it's true. Then the safety car obviously put a lot of drivers in better positions after that during that safety car period. So, and obviously Lando Norris was one of those who benefited from that.
Then we move on to Sunday's main event. God, that sounds like a wrestling show. Right. So, Doohan, I think we've already pretty much covered. And
Yeah, not a great weekend.
There's not really a lot to say. Apart from...
It was good in that he outqualified his teammate, didn't he?
Yeah,
yes.
he did. Yeah,
That's true.
And then, of course, Gasly ended up with the pit lane start because they wanted to change the setup, and that didn't really work out in the end. But how much of a 50-50 was it with Doohan and Lawson going into that corner?
I think it was a bit like, was it lap 1, turn 1 or thereabouts? It was fairly sort of...
it was, yeah. So I think it's a little bit more Liam Lawson's fault than Jack Doohan's. Jack Doohan can't just disappear and go nowhere, and Lawson pinches him on the inside. I don't know. It's like you say, it's a lap one, turn one incident. I have watched another Formula One media video earlier on today, and they decided to say that it was a 50-50 incident, and I was like, okay. So I can see why you'd say 50-50. For me, it was much more Liam Lawson's fault.
He never comes out of these pretty well, does he?
Even when it's like neither were entirely to blame, he's always a bit to blame.
He's always there. He's kind of Thanos inevitable. And yeah, the starting Gasly from the pit lane with a setup change. Were they expecting an out and out monsoon?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because I think the announcement came during F1 Academy, didn't it? When obviously they were kind of floating around.
Yeah, it was going to stop, and then there was going to be thunderstorms, and the race might get temporarily red flagged, and then we had about 3 wet corners.
It was like a light drizzle, wasn't it?
But it's one of those gambles where it's absolutely genius if it pays off when you're gambling on something that's completely out of your hands. So you can't fault them for it. They were trying to make the best out of what was going to be a bad situation, whatever. And I don't think he finished any worse than he would have done if it had started from the grid.
Yeah, I agree. It was, probably would have done better actually, because I think the setup change probably slowed him down a little.
True.
But it was worth a shot, because, like you say, if you've qualified 18th, you may as well start from the pit lane with a complete setup change. Because look what happened in Brazil last year with Alpine. They got 2 and 3 for having wet weather setup, and it worked really well for them.
Yeah.
So it was worth rolling the dice, given that Gasly qualified 18th.
Yeah. Right. Sauber. Bortoletto. Or do you want to give him his new name, Chris?
I bought a letdown. I really like him. Like I think he's a fantastic driver. He's got a lot of speed, raw speed, but he's making a lot of mistakes. He's doing a lot of crashing. He's literally on the verge of Jack Doohan levels of what's he up to? But we know that he's there for the long term. But it's, to me, it's just it's difficult to watch because I really like him.
I mean, he got a decent qualifying. Getting a Sauber to 13th on the grid is it's not all that bad. And I think
went backwards though as soon as the race started.
Well, I think he got caught up in the knock-on effect of the Max and Lando thing, because everybody just seemed to panic at that point, and I think it was possibly around the Lawson and Doohan happening as well. So. Because he had to run. I think he had to run wide to get out of the way of it all. So, but yeah, it was the engine that let him go this time. An unreliable Ferrari. Who'd have thought?
With Bortoletto, did he? He had an engine problem, and then eventually pulled into the pits, didn't he?
Yeah.
To retire.
Yeah.
But it was said quite early on, wasn't it, that he had engine issues, and he just carried on.
Yeah, he was complaining on the radio about loss of power, and I think they tried to sort of just power through it, and it didn't work.
Yeah, tried every setting that they could find, and
I don't know if he did make it to the pits. Actually, I think he might have been one of the VSCs.
I think he was a short VSC.
Very short one. Yeah.
He stopped on the back straight, didn't he? By one of the openings in the fence. Yeah.
And then Hulkenberg, bit of an anonymous weekend for the Hulkster. I don't recall him.
The Hulkster in green.
Yeah, I don't recall him doing anything of note.
No, me neither.
I can't remember.
Did we see him on TV?
He is on a Sauber, though.
Anonymous Sauber, yeah. An anonymous Hulkenberg in an anonymous Sauber.
Yeah, went out in Q1, and yeah, that's about it.
Went to Miami, came home again.
I mean, it's a lovely weekend. Right, Haas. Behrman with a DNF. Apparently, wasn't the power unit that let go.
Really?
It was the electronics and the hydraulics all at the same time.
Oh wow, because it visibly shat itself.
Yes.
And audibly.
Yes.
Yeah, the whole car just shut down in the space of 2 corners.
Yeah, it very much over revved. And then he just cut out.
I mean, he was having a half decent performance. I mean, to say that he qualified, what was it, 19th?
Yeah, he needs to work on the qualifying, doesn't he? They were talking about he's the driver who's made up the most positions from qualifying to race finish, but that just means he was qualifying shit.
More on track overtakes, I think it is, than
Yes.
any other driver.
That's the one.
Yeah, so he's still very much a work in progress, as is his accent, which we can't pin down to one specific region of Europe.
Yeah, because although he's British, he didn't do his junior series in Britain. He did Italian F4.
Italian,
And I think German. I think he did German F4 as well.
He's very much got that it's Italian affectations, isn't he? In his accent.
Pan-European influence.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, once he gets to grips with qualifying in this car, I think I do think we are going to see good things from him. Mm-hmm. I think he's definitely got to be on the short list for when Lewis chucks himself out of the pram along with all the rest of his toys.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's a long-term Ferrari prospect, isn't he, Ollie Behrman?
Yeah, which we'll get to in a bit. So make yourself a cup of tea.
Have a tea break, why don't you? Yeah.
And Ocon in 12th. Again, we didn't really see a great deal. I think he was
there.
Yeah, he was just there, and what was the gap? He was 8 seconds behind Hadjar and 8 seconds in front of Gasly.
Decent qualifying though, because he was in Q3.
I'd actually forgotten about
Yes,
that. Yeah, qualified 9th and ended up 12th.
Yeah, but again, he's in that car that's, car's not amazing, but, I think both those Haas drivers are very different drivers, but I think they're both very good drivers. I think if you put Ocon in Mercedes, he'd probably do just as good a job as, well, maybe not as good a job as Russell, but would do something similar to what Antonelli's doing at the moment. And Behrman, he's still young, he's still learning.
Yeah, I mean, if they could teach Behrman Ocon's qualifying and Ocon Behrman's overtaking, they'd be unstoppable.
They'd be pretty good, wouldn't they? Actually, it's a good point. Yeah.
All they need is to put the 2 drivers in the same car.
Ah.
Well, they did that.
Yes.
reaching speeds of nearly 20 kilometres an hour.
Oh,
I thought you meant every time that K-Mag and Grosjean nearly shared a cockpit.
Yeah, there's that as well.
Yeah, no, the Lego car driver parade was possibly one of the best things I think I've seen in Formula One for a long time. It was hilarious, and we do need more of that kind of
Silliness.
Yeah, the silliness kind of like surrounding F1, so you get a bit more of the drivers' personalities come out of it. There's been loads of like Instagram videos and stuff of the drivers going live from the Lego cars, like racing each other. They actually broke quite a big piece off of the Alpine Lego car going into one of the corners.
George Russell broke his phone.
Oh no!
Yeah, he also dropped it at some point. Carmen, his girlfriend, put it on Instagram afterwards. It is just smashed.
F1 drivers aren't having a great deal of luck with phones at the minute because Alex Albon left his on the press conference sofas in Saudi, and he left it unlocked as well, and came back to find selfies of every other driver. Let's have a look. Right, Aston Martin. God. Utterly grim. Yeah, Stroll got points in the sprint.
Because he was one of the few people who didn't get a penalty.
Mainly down to the fact that he actually kept it clean.
He got some points, didn't he, in the sprint? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he ended up classified 5th.
That's hilarious. I don't know why.
Just
but
by
it is.
not hitting anyone.
Just,
Yeah,
it's a good day at the office for him, not hitting anything.
Yeah, I mean, two races for Alonso, 2 lots of backwards. All right, one of them was Lawson assisted, but he's spinning the Grand Prix.
It was Vettel-esque, wasn't it? It sort of just, and now I go round.
Spinella.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't heard Spinella for a while, but that was very much very much like that. This Aston Martin is awful, isn't it? Let's be honest.
It is.
Yeah, I don't. They're not going to improve this year. And are we going to see Fernando actually score points?
I think so. Just it's going to take a while, but long
It'll
gone
be
are the
very surprising if he didn't.
long gone are the heady days of 23 when Alonso was scoring podiums.
Seems like another lifetime ago.
It does.
Yeah.
It actually does.
We've got next year's Adrian Newey car to look forward to, and we all know how well Fernando works with a Honda engine.
Also, of all the congratulations tweets to Max and Kelly for the birth of their daughter, Alonso's was the best. I look forward to racing against her in Formula One.
Between his longevity and how early Max was ready, that genuinely could happen. Like, you couldn't rule it out.
I mean, she's probably I'd probably say about 80% of the way there now, because she's nearly the same height as Yuki. Gonna get shouted at for that one. All right, RB. Isaac Hadjar, 11th, missing out on points by, what was it, 1600ths of a second after Yuki's penalty. And Lawson had a corner.
I mean, he carried on for a bit after the corner, but...
It was when somebody pointed out in our chat that he was losing 1.75 seconds a lap to Lance Stroll.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I mean, when they finally got round to retiring him, there was quite a sizable hole in the side pod and nowhere near as much of the floor as there was when the race started. But what I don't understand is why didn't they bring him in earlier? Because
He was out there for a good while after the crash, wasn't he?
yeah, that's
Yeah, it was the second half of the race, I want to say, that they actually retired him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't just the second half. It was lap 36
Of what is it, 50 odd?
of 57. Yeah,
So, yeah, well in.
That is quite quite a long way. Let's have a look. He wasn't the slowest driver, which comes as a surprise. Bortoletto and Behrman were slower than him.
Both of which also retired.
Yeah.
Because their engines were crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they kept him out for 35 laps after that, losing God knows how much time. I mean, were they hoping for a safety car and half the field being wiped out?
Who knows?
Or just hoping he could play some role in the Grand Prix, whether that's helping one of his Red Bull stable mates or something along those lines.
Yeah, it just seemed very strange because it was a good sort of, like I say, a couple of seconds off the pace and losing a second and 3/4 to Stroll, who was, in Stroll terms, disappearing up the road from him. And have they just given up on him and they forgot he was there?
Possibly. I suppose in the event
Did he do a pit stop?
Oh yeah.
I think he did.
Or did he
didn't
just? Yeah, he didn't just come in and retire and that was it.
No,
Like,
he changed tyres.
I suppose in the
And how long
absolute
after the pit stop?
Must have been quite a while because he's listed as having 2 stops.
He
Yeah,
probably
so I'm
stopped
wondering
after
if
the
they-
incident and then, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if they saw him the damage during the pit stop and was just like, no, lads, I think we need to call this. Half the car's missing.
Yeah, he stopped on lap 28.
So they left him out for 8
And then
laps.
they left him out for another 8 laps.
The only logic I could think is they must have been waiting to see if it rained.
Maybe.
Because
Yeah, that's
if
a good
other
shout.
people slide off and he sneaks a point, then...
But if he's lost a ton of downforce, he's going to be sliding as well because he was missing
Well-
half of his floor.
Yeah, there is that.
So, no idea. The Red Bull organisation moves in mysterious ways.
Doesn't it just?
Yes.
On the other side of their garage, though, Isaac Hadjar, I think he's looking pretty solid. You know, he was getting his elbows out. I think RB need to do something with the car if they're going to do anything this season, because it just seems like you'd expect it to be quicker. But do we say this about Red Bull team number 2 every year?
I think we say exactly the
Well,
same
it
thing
starts
every
off
year.
quick.
Yeah, they start well and then they just meander back to sort of 12th.
Yeah, it's one of them where a better car would score more points for them. I mean, the thing is,
That's revolutionary thinking, Paul.
I mean, sometimes you've got to go for the basics, which is not what the Red Bull organisation often do. Yeah, you know, the car's got a puncture. Fire the driver.
Yeah. Yeah. That's Alpine, isn't it?
Well, it is this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Hadjar is going to be pretty solid. I think he's going to make it into a second season.
Yeah. I think Hadjar's done a brilliant job. Aside from Antonelli, I would say he's probably been the best. He's been the best rookie aside from Antonelli. So second best rookie is when you got like so many in the field, I think that's a good place to be.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we do have a decent rookie crop this year. Do you count Lawson as a rookie though?
Yeah, you've got to apparently because it's his first full season.
in his third rookie season.
If he gets a full season,
That's the thing. But who else have they got with the super license now? Because I don't think Lindblad's
This
there
and
yet.
we're back to my Kevin Magnussen argument here, aren't we?
So it might now be K.
it makes sense.
It does.
K Mag in a racing bull.
Why not? What else is he up to this week?
Probably testing a IMSA car or something. Christ knows. Okay, I think that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams outside the points. So all the points were shared by the top 5 teams.
Oh, I hadn't picked up on that.
Neither had I. Right. So,
Were they 2 by 2 by 2? I think they must have been then, mustn't they?
Not fully.
No, they're
Right.
not.
Not fully. 1, 2, 3, 6, 4, 10, 5, 9, and 7, 8.
Oh yeah. But I mean, but you had 5
You
different teams in the top 10.
5 different teams as the top 10.
Yeah.
So we will start with Ferrari, and we'll start with Lewis Hamilton. Spicy radio.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Now apparently, Fred Vasseur went to see Lewis Hamilton after the race before he went to the media, and because he thought Lewis needed to, a talking to, is in to like calm him down before he went to speak to anyone. And Lewis was like, I was already calm when Fred came to speak to me. I just had to tell him, look, some of that was sarcasm. It didn't come across like sarcasm, Lewis. I'm going to be honest.
Really didn't. The thing is, Ferrari's strategy again is, it's comedy gold.
It was basically, we are checking, but without saying the words, we are checking.
Yeah.
I think they do that because half of Italy are playing a drinking game, and they didn't want everybody in Italy to be sozzled on a Sunday night.
Just buy shares in a vineyard.
Yep. Jarno Trulli's got a good one, or so I hear.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I've had some of his wine. They sold it at my local co-op.
Nice.
Yeah, so are they gonna let Lewis pass Charles because he's faster? Are they gonna swap them back? Are they gonna make up their mind? We will get back to you.
The story I read from Fred Vasseur was that before they could give Lewis, or before they could give Charles the instruction to let Lewis pass, they wanted to check whether the speed difference was just because of the DRS or whether he was genuinely quicker. And they needed a lap to work that out. So once Lewis had that lap and showed, no, he is a bit quicker, then they gave the instruction.
Yeah, but when it came to doing it the other way round, they told Charles that Lewis was going to let him pass before they asked Lewis if he could let Charles pass at the corner. So they told Charles it would be like turn 11, and then they told Lewis it would be turn 17. And by that point, Lewis had already gone through turn 17, so he had to do it the next lap round. It was a bit shambolish of Ferrari, really.
It was a bit Ferrari of Ferrari. Just found a Fred Vasseur quote saying, we have a general policy and we follow the policy.
It doesn't really tell us much, does it?
No, I mean,
You see, it doesn't make sense because the thing is, like, Fred is so calm, Fred is so collected, and he seems quite clear in his mission. Like,
oh, it's the weekly floods
Oh,
internet.
no, give him a sec. Oh.
Nope, we think it tends to do this time, roughly this time every week.
Is it always during Ferrari?
Yeah, it is. We talk about Ferrari and Flood's internet drops off, and we'll get a message any second now saying, I can still hear you.
It disappears for half a lap and then comes back.
I think, yeah, it's either Ferrari or George Russell's transponder.
I'm still here.
Hey.
Hey,
So, Fred is so calm.
He's so calm and he's so collected, but, like, how is the rest of the team not?
Yeah, I mean, he was brought in there as the voice of reason and a level head.
and in this case, it should have been an easy call. The drivers are on different strategies. Don't get in each other's way.
Yeah, one's on the faster tyres, so therefore they get to make the move, and then we see how things work out.
But instead, they kept the one on the faster tyres behind that long that when he actually did get let through, he'd missed the best of the tyres, and then the one behind complained he was being held up and was told, okay, well, you go back ahead. But then they didn't tell Hamilton that Leclerc was coming back ahead, and it was very Ferrari. Very, very Ferrari.
On Sky, Jensen Button explained it really well, saying, look, when you come out and you're on the new tyres and you're behind a slower car, it's really important to get past that car as quickly as possible because you need the best of the tyres to get that pace, and you can't get that pace if you're stuck behind the slower car. It's when it's your teammate and you have the power to get past them. It's just it was just a very Ferrari race, wasn't it? For Ferrari, they're not quite there.
Well, I think the race for him this time was summed up by the livery, because it was two halves that were completely different and didn't work well together at all.
It was people calling it the HP livery. Yes, that's why it was in blue and white, but at the same time, it was the Nart livery, wasn't it? Let's be honest. It was a tribute to the 64 North American racing team, when actually that was Ferrari winning a world championship without Italian government help.
I think I said in our chat that it looked like when you've dinged your car and you can't afford to get it resprayed, so you go to the scrap dealer and see what they've got that's the right shape, and it ends up being the right shape but not the right colour for your car.
Like the in-betweeners door.
Like the in-betweeners door.
So, at some point during one of the radio messages, Lewis really should have called the team bus wankers.
You should have done, actually. Yeah.
Possibly the only thing he didn't throw at him. Yeah, the tea break comment was... It's good to see that Lewis has actually got some passion about himself.
It is. Yeah.
You know,
it is good.
He's in the middle of the Ferrari shit show. But he actually gives a toss. I don't think he's regretting the move yet.
He's having a tough time, isn't he?
Yeah.
I'd like to get Dan's opinion on Lewis at Ferrari, because obviously he's not having a great time. 6 races in, he's won that sprint race. There are glimpses every now and again, but I don't think that's necessarily Lewis. I think it's Ferrari, because you've only had one podium. Otherwise, that's been, was it Charles Leclerc and Jeddah? I think it was. So it's Ferrari that aren't really on it when they should be, given where they were last year. What do you think about
the car's
Dan?
not? The car's not looking particularly good. The team are looking like they traditionally have, but then Lewis isn't looking on the same level as Charles consistently at the moment. Whether that's because of the team and the unfamiliarity there, or what, I don't know. But yeah, some way to go for them all.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's probably a combination of quite a few things, isn't it?
Well, he's been in some form a Mercedes driver for his entire Formula One career, and it must be a bit of a culture shock to go to a team that is so different to Mercedes and to McLaren.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, McLaren had the scientific approach, almost sterile. Mercedes, they just...
The efficiency of Toto Wolff.
Yeah, they just seem incredibly efficient and focused as well. And Ferrari, he's gone to a team that... They're just trading on the name, really.
But I don't think he's ever going to regret it. He's there for a reason, and they're knowing who Ferrari are and how they've been historically. And if he can win a championship there, that will be worth so much compared to picking up another one with Mercedes or somewhere else.
You know, I'd like to see it happen, because I mean, thinking back to the last top British driver to go to Ferrari, being Nigel Mansell, and he had a miserable time. You know, I seem to recall him retiring at one point.
Are you saying Eddie Irvine is not a top British driver?
As he raced under an Irish
Irish.
license, no, I'm not.
He raced under both, didn't he? But yeah, he had the British flag, he had the Irish flag. Depended what week it was and where he was.
Yeah, depending what mood he was in. But you know, Mansell had run close in a couple of World Drivers' Championship fights. Went to Ferrari, and it was just, you know, I just remember the footage of him standing in a paddock, ripping his gloves off, throwing them to the journalist, and saying, "That's it, I'm retiring. I've had enough of this." Probably a little less excitable than I said it. This is Mansell, after all. So it's one of those. But you've got to try it when you've achieved everything that's possible to achieve with one team. You might as well move to another to stop you becoming overly complacent.
Yeah, it's just challenging as well, isn't it? You know, you can't do the same thing over and over again. I personally can't do the same thing over and over again. No 2 days at my job are ever the same. No, you know, no two things that anybody goes and do. I think when they start getting the same monotonous, it's a bit boring. Having said that, Lewis did 12 years at Mercedes. I think when the success stopped, I think that's what made him look elsewhere.
I mean, was it Neil Lennon at Celtic at the time when Rangers weren't in the Scottish Premier League, and he left because he got bored of winning everything because there wasn't a challenge.
But then I think had to go back because he realised he actually wasn't talented enough to win anything anywhere else.
Yes, that is also true. Right, Williams up next. Albon in 5th, Sainz in 9th. Carlos was not happy with the way that strategy worked for him. And he thought that maybe they should have freed him up a bit earlier.
Because they were racing, weren't they, the two Williamses early on?
Yeah, they were.
They were, yeah. And they were ahead of the Ferraris by quite a bit in qualifying pace. But when it came to race pace, they ended up with one ahead of the Ferraris and one behind the Ferraris until the very last corner when Carlos Sainz decided he wanted to drive that car again.
Yeah, because I thought at one point they were going to do a line of stern finish, and then it just turned into Sainz just dropping off. Albon definitely did get the most out of it, though, I think.
Albon's driving really well. I mean, he's a little bit, what's the word, temperamental this year. I don't know why. He seems to be a lot more angrier in the car than he has been before. But he maybe it's because it's competitive. I don't know.
I think he's got more challenge from his teammate than he's had for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's taken Carlos a couple of races to get up to speed with Williams. To be fair, he's not quite there yet, but he's certainly getting on top of the car and getting there. But Williams in general look like they're heading up the midfield behind those top 4 teams. I think perhaps the standings, they're probably 5th in the standings. I think they are as well. But it's a really good turnaround from James Vowles at Williams to do what he's doing. Yeah, they got the right drivers. It's just these are the types of races what they need to have, where both cars are in the points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they look like they're going in the right direction, and that's fantastic for them.
The fact that they don't have the token comedy driver on the grid this season is also a great help. Don't get me wrong, I miss Latifi more with every passing day, but as a long-time fan of Williams, I'm just glad to see they've got 2 cars in the points and not 1 car in pieces.
I thought you were talking about Logan Sargent.
Yeah.
I mean, well, they had 2 comedy drivers in a row, didn't they?
Sergei Sorokin, Lance Stroll.
Mm-hmm.
All right, they've had lots of comedy drivers. The thing is, though, with Latifi and Sargent, they came in when the team already had money. Yes, they were there when the team had money. They were bringing an extra, but they were costing the money that they were bringing in.
Mm-hmm.
What's next? Sign Sean Galaile and patch all the repairs up with Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh yeah,
it
maybe.
Could work.
Be a tasty car, that.
Remember that time he did the F2 race where his helmet was a bucket of chicken?
Like Buckethead.
I don't remember that one.
No, he once did a race where his helmet design was a bucket of chicken. It was unlike Buckethead because the bucket was the right way up and had chicken in it. Whereas Buckethead just wears an upside down bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Now I'm confused. Are we saying that instead of a head in the helmet, there was chicken?
There was a picture of chicken on top of the helmet.
I see. Got you. Okay, so they made it look like it was a bucket of chicken.
It made his helmet look like a bucket of chicken.
Okay.
That lost a lot in translation.
It did. It really did.
But going back to Williams, it was a strong performance. Would have liked to have seen the 2 drivers able to race each other more, rather than getting. badly strategized out of it. But Williams haven't normally been a team that have buggered the strategy up lately, so I'm hoping for them this was a one-off.
Well, no, I think it's good for them. I'm counter argument. I think having both drivers that close on the circuit, maybe having to switch a strategy for one of the drivers or the others, making these kind of, if you want to call it like a mistake in terms of strategy, then that's good news for them. The fact that they've got two cars able to race each other in the points ahead of the Ferraris, that you might have to split the strategy so that they don't share the same piece of racetrack, but still maximize the points for one of the drivers. What a great problem to have.
No, what I meant was, buggering up the strategy is a one-off. Getting the strategies right is what we want to see.
Yeah, but even if that was Mercedes or even McLaren fighting each other on the circuit, what they gotta tell one of the drivers that the strategy is going to be different. And then the old adage when it comes to that: if you split your strategies, you're getting it wrong with one of your drivers.
Mm-hmm. By the way, check the chat.
I found the chicken helmet photos.
Ooh. I have to go have a takeaway after we finish. I have already had dinner, by the way.
No, you're not at Watford. You've had tea. Yeah, I've just shared that on Discord with this. This gets talked about, and I'm just waiting to see the responses.
What does it say on the side of his helmet? Is there something like
Galealized?
That's not a word. It's not a real word.
I don't know. Every time you ploughed into somebody, they could always get on the radio and say, "I've just been Galealized." It's like, all right, box and retire. I think he's a WEC now, isn't he?
Is he? I think we've had this conversation semi-recently. Is he Stoffel Van Dorn's teammate?
I think he is. Sorry, WEKFC.
Oh, very good.
No, thank you. Where are we next? Right, Red Bull. Yuki in 10th with a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Didn't manage to brake enough before the speed limit line. And Max in 4th, hanging on, being told repeatedly at the end to make sure that the gap to George was less than 5 seconds. Just in case George got a penalty for not slowing under a yellow, which...
Even though I think, had they not dismissed that fairly, early on?
Yes. So, I'm not... It's Red Bull hanging on to every hope. Somebody mentioned Yuki should get a participation award, which is actually good for him at this point of the season, given everything that's been going on.
I think he's doing okay at Red Bull, to be fair.
Yeah. 10th is solid.
He's in the points.
Yeah. It's been recognised that the car is not that easy to drive. It has been based around Max Verstappen. Max is able to get the best out of it when most other drivers, probably all other drivers, can't. So for Yuki to be where he is in that Red Bull, I think he's doing all right.
Right. One thing that I've just seen is Red Bull post-race lodged a protest against George Russell for not slowing, even though the stewards had said no further action.
That'll be why they.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Red Bull claimed that while car 63 lifted the throttle when the yellow flag was displayed, it did not reduce speed and therefore has not complied with the requirements. In their mind, discernibly reduced speed as required by the regulation means passing the yellow flag zone at an absolute speed which is lower than the speed before entering the yellow flag zone. They stated that the driver of car 1, which was running directly behind car 63, had done that. In other words, George slowed up enough, Max slowed up too much.
So this goes back as well to the post Jeddah race where Christian Horner brought his photos with him. All that did was show that Oscar was following the rules as written in 2025, which changed slightly from last year. So literally, all Christian Horner's photos showed after that race were, look, Oscar followed the rules exactly as he should have done.
It did show something else quite important as well. That
Horner's a twat.
Okay. The third thing that it showed was there's somebody in the Red Bull organisation that can actually get a printer to work on the same day that you want something printing.
Yeah, which means they're not sponsored by HP.
I don't know what machine they were raging against, but it probably said HP on it somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So I've just completely lost my train of thought with that. But yeah, no, the Red Bull then lodging a protest. They're chasing their losses, and the reason behind this is so that Max doesn't drop out of the top 3 in the championship. And George, I think, is now 6 points behind Max in the standings. So there's a real worry within Red Bull that if Max drops below 3rd place in the championship, that triggers a clause where he can then go and sign for another team.
We didn't do a post-Jeddah show for various scheduling reasons, but I would just like to do a retro wanker for Horner for the printout fiasco.
Fair.
Yeah, just and saying also that the journalists who he was showing, like I think there were 10 journalists there, and 9 of them were like, "This just."
Oh, was he gone again? Dan,
It sounds like it.
Dan, stop torturing him. Just going back to this protest, the stewards found that the throttle was lifted by 25%, reducing the torque by 30%. And even though the article requires the driver to have discernibly reduced speed in the yellow flag zone, it doesn't specify what the speed should be. And George Russell was considerably slower in the yellow flag zone than on previous laps.
Did anyone watch the Sky coverage? Because Anthony went and checked this for them and said, no, it's fine, he's lifted it. He even got on the radio and said it. So why did they protest it?
We're back.
Because Max had seen something and they thought it's worth a shot.
And I think we're back to the days of Horner complaining about everything and justifiably earning the name Whinger Spice.
It's been a while since we called him that.
Yeah, well, he's been Finger Spice for the last year.
Careful.
The lines are blurry, so was the photo. Let's do Mercedes. Right, Kimi in 6th. Great weekend for him, really.
Yeah,
Yeah,
aside
a
from being
fantastic
nearly
weekend.
wiped out in his pit stop in the sprint.
Yeah, it was good reactions to Red Bull's out-and-out cock-up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because had he continued to turn into his pit box and Max cut across the rear of his car, he could have done what Bottas did in Austria a few years ago, where he sort of slid sideways down the pit lane, but into all of the mechanics who were waiting for pit stops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, effectively, he was penalised with a drive-through in the sprint that wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Red Bull gave him a drive-through penalty. Who says
Yeah, I thought the
Horner
pole
doesn't
lap
try
was-
and make the rules? Sorry, Chris.
Tinelli. We've
We've lost
anything
him again.
brilliant.
Oh, just start that one again, Chris.
Knock once for yes and twice for no. Okay, obviously he's dropped out for a second again. But yeah, his pole lap for the sprint was absolutely fantastic, and you know, I was sceptical when Mercedes said that he was replacing Lewis for this season, but yeah, I think they made the right move.
He's settled very
I think
well,
he's-
hasn't he?
Yeah, he's doing a very solid job, and things like that pole lap are what you see from world champions.
Yeah, I think we're in with a chance of him getting a championship when he's got the car under him. Clearly, the Mercedes isn't the car to beat this season.
Not at all, nowhere near it. But yeah, they've made a good choice there, and good backup for Russell.
Talking of which, he was being called by a lot of people yesterday, Mr. Somehow I Always End Up on the Podium.
It's an accurate.
Consistency.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not done anything utterly outlandish, anything utterly special, anything completely and utterly stupid, and he just hasn't finished outside the top 5 all season.
No, he's consistent.
I think that's
They're very consistent.
yeah, that's him being consistent, and that's the team being good.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about this earlier. If you think back to what are we talking about, 2016, 2017 ish, when the Red Bull team were nowhere near as quick as Ferrari and Mercedes. Somehow they would get race wins, even though they were the 5th and 6th fastest cars on the grid. And that was because they had good, solid drivers and great teamwork that would somehow springboard them into those positions. And I think that's what George has got. He's got a solid team around him, doing a solid job and making the most of any opportunities that come along.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm sure when he sat down at the end of the race with his PowerPoint, he pointed out all those opportunities one by one in great detail.
Yeah, and the thing with Mercedes is, okay, so they're nowhere near McLaren, but if McLaren drivers are at some point going to tangle, I'm sorry, it's just 'cause it is just going to happen at some point this year. When that happens, Mercedes are currently the favourites to pick up a win. So a win for George or Kimi this year is going to be fantastic for Mercedes.
Yeah, I mean the Constructors' Championship is pretty much sealed, even though we've still got 3/4 of the season to go. And if Red Bull carry on the way that they're doing, they're nailed on for third, because I think they can do better than Ferrari just by not screwing up as much.
By actually getting some strategy right.
Yeah, and
It depends who brings what upgrades, doesn't it, really?
This is
Who's
true.
focusing on 25, who's focusing on 26. If Ferrari bring upgrades and Red Bull don't, they might overhaul Red Bull. But at the moment, I'd say that's a pretty good bet that Red Bull are in for third at the moment.
yeah,
Max Verstappen, that's why.
yeah. And I really think the question is going to be, how close can Mercedes get to McLaren? And I know it's not going to be a fight, but I'd like them to be in the same postcode.
Mm-hmm.
Or zip code.
Well, this is the first really hot race we've had, isn't it? It was wet on Saturday but the race was the first hot race we've had. Jeddah was kind of warm, but it was nighttime. McLaren just disappeared. This is what the next few races are going to be like. Warm conditions, hopefully dry for most of it, but McLaren just disappeared.
Yeah,
completely disappeared.
Mercedes have had a long-standing problem with keeping the car cool anyway. Especially in the zero side pod era.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
That just made it worse. We can't cool the car down. We can't dissipate the heat. Tell you what, let's cut the radiators down by 75%.
Yeah, no, let's not do that.
That's not going to do it. Right, that leaves us with McLaren. Lando losing places off the start again, but this time it wasn't off the line. It was turn one. I'm going to say spirited.
Spirited is a word.
Yeah, I don't know how I don't know how I feel about this one. Originally, I was like, Max is driving dirty again, but then on the replays, I was like, no, Max isn't driving dirty. He just wait a second, doesn't have control of his car, which I thought you were supposed to have control of your car when you were defending. But it seems to be shrugged off as like a racing incident, and that's all it was. I don't think watching the replays, Lando had to jump out of the way quite as much as he did, but given previous, I understand exactly why he jumped out of the way.
This, of course, let Piastri just head off into the sunset. Mm-hmm. And never really relinquished it.
How quickly he opened up that gap once he got past Verstappen. It was like a couple of laps. It's like, oh, he's 8 seconds ahead now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was scary, wasn't it? And then Lando, when he eventually got past, just the two of them just disappeared. Wasn't it something like 2 years ago they were a minute 27 behind the leader.
Yeah.
And here we are. They've won this race by, okay, they won it last year, but they won it this year by 30 something seconds. The two of them crossed the line. I think George Russell was like 32 seconds behind or something.
33 seconds behind Lando.
Yeah, they said something like it was their most dominant win since there was a Monaco involved, I think. I can't remember what year.
Monaco 2007, when
There we
Alonso won and Hamilton was second.
Alonso at McLaren.
That week he was winning races for them. And not arguing. Yeah, utterly dominant performance from both of them. Piastri's move on Verstappen was spectacular. And Lando's move on George, actually, that got a little bit overlooked. Overtaking him on the outside of turn 2.
Yeah, that was committed, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was a good move by Lando in a place where you don't see a lot of overtakes.
Yeah, complete win it or bin it.
Yeah, and Oscar forcing Max into a mistake, which is rare, but it proves it can be done.
Yeah.
I think there's something very interesting to see if you watch the difference between Oscar racing Verstappen and Lando racing Verstappen. They were both behind him and trying to get past for a number of laps. And Lando was putting himself beside Verstappen when there was no chance of completing the overtake. Whereas Oscar just waited and waited and waited for the opportunity, kept having a look, and then took the chance when it was there.
Yeah,
He got it done a whole lot quicker.
Yeah, I don't know if Dan knows this, but I actually put £5 on Oscar Piastri to win the World Championship before the season started. I got some pretty good odds on it.
So maybe with your winnings, you can buy a better internet connection.
Where's he gone now?
Oh, well,
He's back. Maybe.
I think he's been swallowed by a Dalek. We are having many
I think
sound
it's,
problems tonight.
Yes, a few of them. I think it might be the good people at a betting conglomerate who are getting rid of Chris.
Yeah, we don't want to pay him out. We're going to sabotage him now. Yeah, I've looked at the odds on Piastri winning the title this year, and they have plummeted. I think you can't even get evens on him at the moment.
Gosh.
I think he's like 11 to 10 on, which in American terms is minus 100. Decimal odds is like 0.91, so 1.91. So yeah, you can't even double your money by betting on him to take the title.
I'm going to have a look at what the odds on Verstappen winning this season are. Because that's going to be a good outside bet.
Yeah, fairly long now. All of a sudden, it gets announced that Red Bull have built an entirely new car concept for the rest of the season, and all of a sudden, he's 2 seconds a lap faster than anyone else.
Feels like a very Red Bull thing to do.
They?
Sorry, you both.
I said it would be a very Red Bull thing to do.
Yes, it would. Sorry,
and they have upgrades coming.
Just upgrade everything, because they keep trying to upgrade the second driver and it doesn't get far. Chris, are you back with us yet?
Yeah, I've been back for a while. I'm just saying to myself, I don't know why I bother paying for fibre internet. It's fucking worse than it was earlier.
I'd normally do the other internet jokes are available, but no.
Not over here.
Not over here, they aren't.
Well, they are if I want to pay Elon Musk money, and that's not happening.
I mean, yeah. What more can we say about McLaren? It was one of those all-out dominant performances that we have seen from Red Bull in the past, Mercedes in the past, and McLaren in the distant past. Mm-hmm. And I think this is going to be the pattern for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, definitely. It's especially over the next triple header: Imola, Monaco, Barcelona. And then probably right up to mid-season at least, it looks like we're going to get this kind of McLaren dominance.
Yep, that is going to happen and definitely going to be a thing. Right then, Rockstar.
Although weren't people saying the same thing about Red Bull at this part of the season last year?
Probably,
Yeah,
yes.
but then McLaren brought an upgraded car, and I don't know at the moment that any team is thinking of bringing a completely new car to halfway through. I mean, they might do, but I think we'll just see smaller upgrades whilst this year carries on, and and all 10 teams basically chucking everything in for next year, hoping that the order reshuffles.
Well, apparently Williams are now done with any developments on this year's car.
That's a shame.
Albon world champion next year.
You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, Williams is stopping work. Ferrari are going to try to level out some of the inconsistencies. Who's getting fired?
That's an interesting term. Level out some of the inconsistencies.
Yeah, that means Ferrari being consistent, but they are consistent, just consistently unpredictable. Right, rockstars and wankers.
Rockstar Kimi Antonelli.
Definitely.
Agreed.
Yep.
Bernd Maylander. Driving in those conditions.
Yes.
Anybody who drove in those conditions, to be fair, yeah.
I have to say, wankers all around the Miami Grand Prix, I am still not convinced by it.
And we're stuck with it for a long time
We're stuck
now.
with it for another 16 years.
Me.
And also Red Bull's pit crew in the sprint race.
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
Ferrari's
yeah.
tea makers.
Yeah. The Lego cars and Lego car builders.
Oh, for Rockstar?
Yeah. Definite rock stars. And we got a nomination. Who was this from? I don't know because I'm in streamer mode and I can't see the name. Starts with a J anyway. Rockstar for Piastri for completely blanking MBS at the end of the race.
Excellent, yes.
Oh, and also for not being in the McLaren selfie. I don't know if you saw that. Zach took a selfie of himself with the two drivers. MBS was looking in the background trying to get in on it, and he's not even in the picture.
Quality camera work then. Wanker. Is it too harsh to say Lawson?
No.
He ended people's races.
Yeah. Well, he did the sprint punt on Alonso.
Yes.
And was involved in
Had the
Doohan's
tangle.
retirement.
Yes. What is it? Is he up to 6 penalty points, did we decide?
Yeah.
Yes. And he doesn't lose any until the
December.
first weekend in December.
Yeah, trying too hard. Mm-hmm. I get why he's trying hard, but
That's the problem. But they completely and utterly destroyed him.
yeah.
So, we got any others?
The rain as a bit of both, a Gene Simmons,
Jane Simmons.
for sort of giving
Yeah.
us quite a spicy sprint, threatening so much in the race, but never quite coming to it.
And then ruining F1 Academy.
Yes.
Yeah, ruining F1 Academy was the wankery bit of the weather there.
Yeah. The commentator's curse for Sky doing a massive feature on Ella Lloyd and then her taking two drivers out.
That was quite a start, that wasn't
it?
Yeah, it was definitely and who was in the commentary box for Formula Academy?
Oh, friend of the podcast.
Friend of the podcast, Abby Pulling.
Yes.
Although she was nearly late for the first race because she got collared by Ted as part of his notebook and had to sort of point out that she was on her way to the commentary box.
Ooh.
Right. So now it is time for the returning feature. Dan, the last time you were on, I think it was still called Who's a Total Shunt.
It probably would have been.
But as there are no more total shunts, we now have, and I know you two aren't going to hear this, but everybody else will.
Is that Glock? Is that Glock going slowly? It is, it's Glock!
Yep, Is That Glock. And this week's Is That Glock has been sent in by Chris's favourite Finn.
Mika Hakkinen?
Chris's favourite Finnish listener to the podcast.
Wait, Mika Hakkinen could be listening. We don't know.
That is true. Yeah, Santeri Onasti.
We haven't heard from Santeri for a long time, so thank you for getting in touch, Santeri. It's nice to hear from you again.
Conspiracy theory. Is Santerio Nasty potentially Dan? As we've not heard from either for a little while, and yet here they both are making their big comebacks.
Oh, now it could
And
be.
you've never seen us both in the same room at
I
the
have
same
not.
time.
That's absolutely true.
I have had conversations about 80s hair metal with Santeri. Every time I've mentioned it to Dan, he's usually left the room.
It's an elaborate cover.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Yes.
I was born
Yay.
in 1966.
Okay.
I drove 2 seasons in British F3. After which, I moved to Japan to drive in Japanese F3000 for 4 seasons.
That's a choice.
Might have been called Formula Nippon at that point.
Oh, Formula Nippon was a thing, yes.
Basically, what's now Super Formula.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. That is interesting. So 1966, so would have been, mid to late 80s, maybe, racing, sort of around that time, possibly.
Yeah.
Could be anybody, good Lord.
It could be someone early 90s as well.
Yeah.
It could be, yeah, we could be going into the early 90s.
What year was Damon Hill born?
He's around then, I think,
Yeah,
actually.
he must be in that neck of the
66,
woods.
maybe. Possibly. I think it's 62 for some reason. Rings a bell. I don't know why. For Damon Hill.
Oh, I never knew that. I've just looked up when Damon Hill was born, but I'm not going to tell you because...
Well, he said he never
Because
knew
that might give the game away.
He said he never knew that, and if it was
And he
Damon
would have
Hill,
known
he
that.
would have known that because
Yeah.
he's just told us.
So it's not Damon Hill.
Damon Hill was born in 1960. So, can I have your first guess, please?
Have we had 3 clues? I thought
Yeah.
we'd only had 2.
Born in 66, 2 seasons in British F3 and Japan F3000.
In my
for
head,
4
I'd merged
seasons.
the F3 and the Japan.
Ah.
Oh, yeah, I thought that was the same clue as well.
Right, he's written those all on separate lines, so I'm counting them as separate clues.
See.
Okay. We don't know where they moved from to go to Japan either, do we?
No.
That's the thing.
It's
British
implied,
British F3.
but that doesn't make them British necessarily.
Yeah, that's what I was going for.
So someone slightly younger than Damon Hill, but possibly racing a bit earlier. I'm going to go with Mark Blundell.
Oh,
So that's a good shout. I was
Yeah.
going to go with somebody perhaps possibly Japanese who came to Britain for F3. I'm going to go with Shinji Nakano.
And here's me expecting at least one of you to have said Pedro Lamy.
Not yet.
Right, next set of clues. I have worked as an F1 steward.
I think Blundell has, so that
Yeah.
leaves Dan's thing still in play. Okay.
yeah.
My F1 debut came when I was asked 6 days before the race, do you think you can drive it next weekend with no testing? I said, yes, I know the circuit, so I don't think that's a problem.
That sounds like a Mark Blundell answer. It also sounds like a Martin Brundle answer, but I don't think
Or
it's
Johnny
you.
Herbert.
It was also a Schumacher answer, wasn't it? When he was asked if he wanted
Eddie
to.
Jordan
Yeah,
asked
so
him.
when Eddie Jordan asked, "Oh, do you know Spa?" Yes, of course I know Spa. I know of it. I think this is just a very racing driver answer potentially.
Yeah.
And in F1, I scored 33 points.
I think Blundell, I mean, Johnny Herbert scored way more than 33
Yeah.
points. Mark Blundell is still a good shout, I think, Dan. I think you're still on something there. With Mark
Yeah.
Blundell. Do we need to give a second guess now, do we?
That is 6 clues. It is second guess time.
I like Mark Blundell, and I can't think of...
Yeah, I have nothing better to offer.
Mainly because the 33 points have ruled out Pedro Lamy.
Ah,
They have, yes.
Yes.
By about 33. No, I'm joking.
If we hadn't have renamed this feature Is That Glock, it would have been Is It Pedro Lamy? If somebody wants to write one for Kieran, because he's not on this show and he might not be listening. Right, next set of 4 clues. I've had more success out of F1, including 2 class wins at Le Mans, a win in V8 Supercars, American Le Mans Series Championship, and a podium in kart. That's Kart with a C, the artist formerly known as IndyCar.
Is it David Brabham?
ooh.
V8 Supercars is what gave it away for me there.
One of my memorable drives was in Monaco.
I don't know why it would be a memorable drive, but okay.
The 1990 British F3 season was known for me and my countryman's title battle.
Countryman is an interesting thing there, because if it was a Brit, there'd probably be quite a few of them.
Yeah, 1990 British F3. So I think David Brabham first started driving in Formula One, funnily enough, for the Brabham team in 1992. I think that was when he made his Formula One. So back then, you didn't really go from F3 to F1 in like 2 seasons. So maybe it's not David Brabham. And I can't think who else Australian he would have been fighting for a championship in the early 90s.
And there is a spaffer, should you require.
I think we might require it.
I'm
Yeah.
going to require.
Yeah.
Yeah, but because if it's Blundell and it gets like what was Blundell's Formula One debut? It was like what 91, 92 maybe 93 possibly, but I think he was in Formula One.
Yeah, I feel like we're
91-ish.
further away than we were before now.
Do you want the spaffer?
Yeah.
In the same
Yes,
season,
please.
in the same season, I stood in for Ricardo Zonta and Michael Schumacher.
Mika Salo. I think it's got to be Mika Salo. Mika Salo's been a steward.
Yes.
It would make sense. Santario
Yes.
and last year's finish, as is
Yes.
Mika Salo.
I would imagine it's quite possible that the British Formula 3 in 1990 was between Mika Salo and maybe Mika Hakkinen.
Yeah, quite
Potentially.
possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we should go for Mika Salo on that one.
I am not Glock.
I'm happy to agree.
I am Mika Salo.
Yay.
Yes.
The memorable Monaco drive was in 1997 when he did the whole race on a non-stopper.
Oh,
Ooh, back in the days when you were allowed.
very controversial.
Yeah, didn't even take fuel.
Wow.
And I think the cat's about to throw up on the skybox. Right, we have the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at Imola coming up in 2 weeks. Well, should we do a preview of that one next week?
Why not?
Yeah, that would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Dan, would you like to join us for next week's show as well?
I would love to.
And we'd
That's given that you don't have any secret missions,
Yes.
of course.
Yes. Yeah, and we would love to have you back as much as you are available. It's been a while, but you are still
Well,
as
thank
much
you
of a
very
part.
much. It's
You are still as much a part of the team, and I keep getting asked on Discord and on Twitter, "Where's Dan?" Well, he's right here.
Here he is.
here I am for now. The rest of the time, Paul can't say.
I wondered why you made me sign that NDA the last sim racing event we did.
And I don't know.
Right, we'll be back next week. Me and Sean are going to bugger off to Paris for a week. Mm-hmm. See the sights and drink the beer.
Yes.
So we will see you in about a week's time. Bye bye.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.